All right guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about shoulder impingement or impingement syndrome, otherwise known as pain in the front of the shoulder. It's kind of become a little bit of a garbage term for pain in the front of the shoulder, right? So it's not as scary as it sounds. So basically what it is the tendons of the rotator cuff getting pinched under the shoulder blade, okay? So this is a shoulder model. So this is the clavicle, so the front of the shoulder. This is the back, this is the spine of the scapula. And this is the arm, right? So this is where your arm would be. This is the like ball and socket joint of the shoulder, okay? So basically what impingement syndrome is, so this is the shoulder blade here, and then this is the shoulder, and basically what's happening is when you lift your arm repetitively, so this is me like lifting the arm, basically what's happening is the tendons of the rotator cuff are getting pinched underneath this scapula, right? So that's essentially what's going on when you hear people talk about shoulder impingement. There can be other causes too, just inflammation in the shoulder joint, inflammation around the joint and the muscles around the scapula that can cause pain in the shoulder too. But essentially that's where it got its name, impingement, okay? It's because it's getting pinched underneath there. And then all of these muscles here are the rotator cuff coming around, the group of 4 muscles. So I'm gonna basically explain like a couple of things about shoulder impingement. We're gonna talk about why or how you may get it, and then go through a bunch of exercises that you can try to hopefully combat this issue. So a reason why you probably will start to get that feeling of that pinching in the front of your shoulder is probably because you started doing an increase in overhead activities, right? Because as I showed you with the model, when you lift your arm overhead, that's when that can get pinched. And essentially, I think I like to explain it as like an imbalance of strength. So the strength from the back of your shoulder and the back of your upper back isn't enough to combat all the stress that's being put on the shoulder joint. So the way that we like to treat it is essentially to just strengthen everything on the posterior side of the shoulder and strengthen the rotator cuff to make it more resilient and put you in a better position so that it's not so vulnerable to that pinching sensation. So yeah, a lot of times we'll hear people get shoulder impingement like they painted their house and they were doing this like out of nowhere. Maybe somebody had just got into doing CrossFit for the first time and they were doing a ton of like overhead lifting that they've never done before. Maybe just getting into the gym at all, doesn't have to be CrossFit, just getting into working out at all and doing stuff overhead, but usually it's some kind of repetitive overhead activity that causes that pain to start. So I'm going to show you guys some really basic exercises, and then I'm going to try to show you a way to progress each one of those. So if you feel like they're too easy for you, where you are in your journey of shoulder impingement, then you can go on to the next one and start getting it stronger, okay? So like I said, we want to focus on strengthening the back. So the first exercise I'm going to show you guys is a sideline external rotation. So this is the first way we like to start kind of training the rotator cuff muscles and then progress it to a more functional movement pattern. So let me show you guys this. What you're going to need is just a little towel like rolled up, and you're going to put that underneath your arm, and that just kind of essentially puts the shoulder in a better position to be strengthened and puts the rotator cuff in a better spot to get active. So, and then you can do this with or without a weight. We typically will have patients start with no weight and then progress to weight. So what you're going to do is just get down on the ground. Like I said, you're going to have the towel right underneath your elbow there. You're going to pull your shoulder back so that it's not rolled forward, okay? That's key. And then obviously you can have a pillow or something here if you want to, with or without a weight. And then what you're going to do is rotate the arm straight up towards the ceiling and then control it all the way back down to your stomach. So super simple, but the key here to focus on is actually to think about pulling the arm up from the back of your shoulder. So if you look right here, this is like where you should be feeling the exercise, not in the front. So you want to think about pulling the arm up from the back, up and down. And I'll usually have people start off with like 3 sets of 10 of these with no weight. And then the next week that they come in, I'll have them progress to weight. After that, we want to start to progress it to a little bit of a more functional way. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. This is one of the ones that I like. You can do it off your knee. So same idea, pull the shoulder back, rotate straight up, and control it down. And make sure you're not like dumping the shoulder forward, and you should, again, feel that burn in the back of your shoulder there. That's one way to progress it. A little bit more gravity there. And then the other way to progress it would be with a band. So switching shoulders. So with a band, you wanna, if you can, keep the towel, because I feel like that just puts it in a better position, like I said. And then hold the band, get it straight out at like 90 degrees from your hand. Again, bring the shoulder back and then open. And you can kind of find as much resistance as you want. And you want to go nice and slow and controlled. And again, still feel that burn right here in the back of your shoulder. So that's how I would go about progressing shoulder external rotation. And the reason why we're doing that one, again, is to work the rotator cuff, make it stronger and more resilient so those tendons aren't getting pinched underneath that scapula. And then also just to pull your shoulder in a better position and just get your back stronger so that you're not constantly forward and in that pinchy like zone, I guess we'll call it. The next one that I like to give people on day one when they come in with shoulder impingement is called Scaption. So this is basically just a way to get your arms overhead without pain, because typically when you have shoulder impingement, every time you lift your arm over your head, it hurts. So this is a way to get your arms up over your head, get some range of motion, hopefully without pain. So the reason why it's not usually as painful is because scaption is the plane of the scapula, whereas just regular shoulder flexion is the glenohumeral joint or the shoulder joint, same thing. So it's a different joint that's causing the range of motion, so it's not as much stress on that front of the shoulder. So what you're gonna do, I usually will have people do it against the wall just because it helps you to stay nice and tall, pull your shoulders back, remind yourself to not hunch forward while you do it. You don't need a wall, but I think it just helps. You're gonna make sure that you have your thumbs pointed up towards the ceiling. That's the most important part. And then you wanna find like a 45-degree angle, so not straight in front of you, not in a T, but right in between those two. And you might need to be slightly narrower or slightly wider. You just need to kind of feel where it feels comfortable to you. And then you're just gonna bring your arms up, all the way up, as high as you can, and then control them back down. So as you go up, you wanna think shoulders down and back, come up, and then control back down and kind of engage those lats a little bit on the way down. So I usually have people do maybe 3 sets of 12 of these. To progress this, you would just go to add some small weights in your hand. So 2 to 3 pounds in your hand and just add weight to it, okay? The next one that I always have people start with is some kind of back squeeze, or you can just call it like scap retraction is the technical term, or you could just say like a back squeeze basically. So again, we wanna get the back, the upper back and the posterior shoulder as strong as possible so that it's taking the pressure off the front. We need to get everything back and strong so that you can hold yourself in a better position and prevent that pinching from happening. So the very first day when it's really painful, I'll just have people do this sitting or standing. We call it a W exercise. You're just gonna put your hands up like this, keep your shoulders relaxed, elbows down, and then you're just gonna take your hands and move them straight back towards the wall behind you. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, so nice big squeeze, and then relax. And just go back and forth, holding a few seconds in the back, and then relaxing. You wanna make sure that when you do this, you don't, oops, I'm stuck. You wanna make sure that you don't go up, okay? So you don't wanna bring your shoulders up into your ears, you wanna bring it straight back, okay? Because that, if you get this all working, then that's gonna just bother your neck a little bit, and you don't want that. So you want it to all be focused on that mid-back, right in between the shoulder blades. To progress that, you would just add some resistance. So I'll usually have people go to a single arm banded row, or you could also do a double arm row, but if you have one side that's injured, you wanna try to isolate that side as much as you can. So you're just gonna kind of hold the band, Let your shoulder come forward just a little. Let me do the side so you can see better. So you're gonna let your shoulder come forward just a little, and then you're gonna pull the shoulder blade down and back, and then squeeze the elbow to your side. A big mistake that people make with rowing is they try to just do like a bicep curl, right? That's not gonna help you. Your arm shouldn't get tired before your back. Your back should be the thing that gets tired, okay? So you're gonna squeeze your shoulder blade back and then squeeze your back or your lat. Okay, so right here is where you should be thinking about actively squeezing. You shouldn't need to go super far past your body, because what that's gonna cause you to do is dump your shoulder forward, and that's just gonna worsen that pinching sensation. So you wanna think shoulder blade back and then squeeze just like to your abdomen or slightly behind, hold for a sec, and then control it back forward. So full speed is gonna look like this. Good, and then from there, you can always progress to like a weighted row, right? So a band is gonna be a little bit easier than a weight. And for a weight, same idea, just grab a little weight. I like to do it bent over like this. Make sure your back is nice and flat. Squeeze your back, and then squeeze your shoulder blade. Squeeze that lat. So that's what that would look like. So those are the exercises that I would typically have people start with. You want to just keep in mind that with all of these exercises, it's gonna depend on where you're at in your journey with the shoulder impingement. If it's like right after you just did a paint job on your house, or if it's right after you just did like a super hard, intense overhead workout, it's probably gonna be really sore and really tender. So you may need to do like the easiest version of these. But if it's been a little while and you've been working through it, you might be able to go a little bit harder with some of these. The key with all of this is to just, again, get strong in the back, improve your posture, take the pressure off the front, and just make the rotator cuff in the back more resilient. Keep in mind too, we never want to tell people to stop doing the thing that they love doing. So if you love CrossFit or you love lifting overhead, that's not something we would ever tell you to stop doing long term. But in order to really help this problem, you may need to temporarily relieve the stress that caused it, right? So if it's really tender every time you lift your arm over your head and you're still trying to lift weight over your head, that's not gonna help your situation, unfortunately. So what we usually would have people do is just modify things to avoid the overhead lifting just for about a week or two, work in some of these exercises in place of that, and then slowly transition back to overhead. So again, this isn't all encompassing from start to finish how we would work with somebody with shoulder impingement, but it's a really good start. From there, our goal is always to transition into more functional things, right? So it's not super functional to just do this, but it is functional to do this and get your arm up overhead, right? You have to be able to reach into the cupboard. You have to be able to pick things up without pain. So we always try to transition into more functional movements and more functional patterns. So depending on where you are in your journey, you may be ready for that, but it just depends. So I highly encourage you, if you're experiencing some shoulder impingement, to try out some of these exercises, try out some of these progressions. Try to do a little bit every day if you can, and then take the stimulus away that caused it, whatever that may be. Let us know how that went if you guys try this, and if you're still having problems or you need something a little bit more specific to you, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to help. You can call us, text us, comment below on this video, and we would be happy to help you. So thank you guys so much for watching.